Hi friends, I'm Daryl Scotty. Welcome to Big Yard Nation. We're a creative music collaborative and record company based in Phoenix, Arizona and Los Angeles. I've partnered with Alex Chacon and Aaron Howard, two amazing musicians and producers, along with my longtime friend, touring artist, songwriter, and record producer, Larry Antonino. Our sole mission is to amplify a community dedicated to creating contemporary original music. But on our YouTube channel at Big Yard Nation, you'll find hours of free inspirational video tips and interviews with successful artists and producers. This is a great way to craft your skills, friends. And now our team wants to share in our experiences to hopefully inspire in you the same opportunities we've enjoyed.
The whole idea of melody as a piece of leadership, harmony as a piece of collaboration, rhythm as a piece of managing time. It's a way of extending the most beautiful divine language that we have as human beings, music, into day-to-day life. So this idea that music applied to life, that music is not just categorized as something that's entertainment, and you hear it on the radio, and you go to the Hollywood Bowl or wherever you go to hear music. That's a very limiting box to put this sacred language in. I believe music is sacred. I believe we all have it inside of us. So if I pray that if I make any kind of minor dent in anything, I'm hoping that I'm able to move the needle on the conversation of living life in tune and extending the power of music into day-to-day existence.
If you didn't know Freddie and Larry played on this record, because you probably heard it, the melody is so classic, so iconic. Let's see what you guys got today. It's so beautiful, man. I'm sitting right here, front row seats. This is amazing. Dude, we are so blessed. Everybody's from the control room and the studio, they're all hanging out here. It's like, oh my God, you just took the yard into the stadium.
Oh, come on.
Oh, dude, God bless you, man.
You're one of the most connecting performers I've ever watched. You look at people in the eye all over the thing, and you nod, right? Like I've seen you, like you've done it to me, like you know, while you're singing a song, you press a loop and give somebody a goofy grin. And so you create this connection where people feel like, I kind of know this dude, you know, and I got to go see him.
And so, when a technical comes up, he looks at him and says, you know, it happens.
Yeah. So he is So I think that you have a unique opportunity to do what you want to do. I think if we're talking to somebody who's starting out, they have two options. One, spend about a decade getting to know everybody in their community and kill it locally, or a couple communities, right? Like you go out east and do the same thing, probably because you spent some time there, right? So I don't know the whole story, but that's my assumption. Where you're talking to an artist who's starting out, they got to play the game. Like I'm trying. I cried about it yesterday. I'm trying to make 30 pieces of content a week. Okay? Because TikTok should be 3 to 4 a day, right? Instagram should be 1 a day, and that goes back and forth between carousels and reels. I mean, it is a madhouse. And so I think that you have to play in the world that's there, but that asset, the best asset, a finished piece of music, it takes the most investment of time and money. It takes the most investment of heart and soul and care. And it's the most valuable thing for making everybody on top of the pile money. And I don't think that beyond, short of the 100 million stream level, it's ever going to be valuable again, unless you connect personally with people and they want to support you. So, hey, I'll buy your $45 vinyl. I'll buy your, best fan kit that has the $45 vinyl and the t-shirt and the thing. And it's not just merch, it might be Bandcamp. Bandcamp, no one actually wants to go get their music on Bandcamp. The only reason they want to is because they are actively going, I would like to give my money to the arts. This person is the kind of art that I would like to see more of. Therefore, I will give my money to them.
Right.
Yeah. Great point.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Great point.
Like, I don't think you can unring the bell, and I don't think starting some company that's going to get artists paid more is enough, unless you could, like, maybe if somebody started a not-for-profit competition to Spotify where every penny went to the artists outside of upkeep of the company, maybe.
This song, I think you might be able to hang your hat on. And what I love working with Joey is that he's easy on himself, but he's very thorough. We sent it over to Larry Antonino, our producer in LA. You've probably seen on Big Yard Nation. This thing evolved to really where the title of the song, It Just Feels Right, became a reality.
Yeah.
You're gonna play a little bit of it?
Yeah.
So why not play like that very cool chorus of yours,
Okay.
And then after that, let's talk a little bit about what this song is, because there's a vibe to this song. And it's a quirky little vibe. If you know Joey, or you're a fan of Joey, if you listen to some of his songs, Sand or Snow or Bad News. Love Bad News. He's got this artistry that, is very real and relatable. And I think that's why your fans love you so much, man. And so this song, I think, is really, like I said, I think this could be one that you want to hang your hat on. So play us a little bit of it, man.
Well, I need to get a cool hat like you, man, so I can actually have one to hang.
There's that beautiful hook.
Let's do it again. Barely hanging by a thread, too afraid to lose you, so I hold my breath. Give me one more chance to try and roll your eyes, saying something stupid just to break the ice. It's a line that I never dared try to cross when I'm running scared. I'm that weirdo you don't seem to mind. It just feels right.
Tell us about that hook. I'm that weirdo you don't seem to mind.
Well, I've always felt like a bit of a weirdo, The cool thing about this song, I think, for me, is that it is like about this chance meeting with this one person, but in it is tied up a lot of things that I've taken from past rejections and worrying, like, is there something wrong with me, putting on a front to try and be somebody else, all different sorts of things that come, because I'm somebody, I don't know where it comes from, but I grew up as an only child, and I've struggled with feelings of, just feeling like I'm not enough and like I'm not as good as other people, and self-esteem issues, and that has caused me to act out of just not really myself and attempting to be somebody else in order to win somebody over, when all I really needed to do was just bide my time and just
be yourself.
Be myself. So
this, I'm that weirdo you don't seem to mind.
Yeah, and it's kind of like, oh wow, this is,
what's cool about this lyric? It's almost as if it was a diverted, unrequited love that you had to, like what you were just talking about. Like this could have gone the other way.
Yeah.
But instead, you got comfortable with it and you broke out of your shell, in that verse and going into that chorus, and it was like, I'm that weirdo. I think you don't seem to mind.
Yeah.
This just feels right.
Yeah. And owning it, not being like, I'm that weirdo that you don't seem to mind. It's like, yeah, I am that weirdo, but you don't seem to mind. So what are we doing here? Guess I've gotten used to being someone else. When I'm all in, I can't be no one else. Give me one more chance to get my head on straight. Is this for real? Can this be my fate? It's a line that I never did. Try to cross when I'm running scared. I'm that weirdo you don't seem to mind. It just feels right. Just feels right. And then bridge time, baby.
Yeah, bridge. We're going to talk about that beautiful bridge
like
too.
Bridges.
Give us a little bit about how you go about writing those parts and how you organize them and how you charted them and then how you guys walk us through that.
Okay. Yeah, it's real important we get a copy of the song. I want to get the flavor of the song, what it is. I want to get the song really internalized. And then it always helps when the artist, has some ideas. So when they say they want horns, they always have a preconceived idea of what they want. So when you play something or sing something to me, that helps because I get the idea of what they're looking for. And then I just try to start off being very melodic. Talk to the artist and see what horns they want. Do they want just all saxophones, or do they want sax, trumpet, and trombone? I believe on the session we did a tenor, bari, trumpet, and trombone, and just start with a melody, what works good, development of the ideas that you sent, and just go from there. Also, it's important to listen to the other instruments that are playing in there. So sometimes, lack of a better word, I'll steal something that Chuck played and I'll emphasize that with the horns. Or if the melody, I might change a little bit of the melody that you sang, but maybe this might be a little better, this might fit a little better, it might transition a little better going into the next section of the song. Wow. So it's a lot of listening and just, it's you can hear it sometimes before you write it. You hear something and go, okay, that needs to be this or that. State of mind. I get a laid back, easy feeling. I can't explain or know why.
Play on that tune every night. So by the time we got back into the real studio to do the real album, we were like on fire. I relearned the stuff I liked that I had played on the demo and then basically composed the other part of the solo. So it's kind of like 60 to 70% improv from the demo and 30% composition that I worked out.
Following the changes, and then putting those little riffs that you got, and then of course that time where you just kind of break out, and Grant Geisman, the genius of which you are, just kind of all over that.
The genius is he let me like relearn the solo and then work out the parts that I wanted it to be.
most of it.
Everybody in the studio is going crazy. Grant Geisman on Feels So Good. Man, I got a first row seat. That was incredible. Dude! Oh my God. We talk about highlights in the career. That's going to be one of mine right
Wow,
there,
awesome.
buddy.
Thank you, Daryl.
Oh man, dude. Yeah.
So we just kind of made up stuff that was cool. And it was the reason it was called Feel So Good is literally that album felt so good to make it. Like everybody was on board,
The magic of being in the studio with the right track, with the right people.
The right time, the right everything,
Yeah, amazing. But how did this thing with 2.5 Men happen?
Chuck liked what I was doing, and he put me together with his longtime musical collaborator, a guy named Dennis C. Brown. So we co-wrote the rest of the music on the show, and the theme is a co-write between me, Lee Aronson, and Chuck Lorre.
Wow.
And the theme ended up being, men, that's it.
And so when
22 seconds in all.
22 seconds.
Yeah.
How many episodes was done on that
There was
show?
something like 200, I want to say 262 or something like that. It went for 12 seasons, which is
12
pretty.
seasons.
It's like catching, lightning in a bottle to have a show be a hit and also last for 12 seasons. It's like, literally, impossible odds. But so I got super lucky,
Yeah, and the blessings keep rolling in, right? I mean,
they still keep playing it, so that's the good news, you know.
Yeah.
And as a producer and somebody that's organizing and getting this session to flow, it's important to me to also you gotta step back for a second and say Dwayne, is it okay?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Having that other voice there that you trust.
Yeah.
Going, all right, I'm hearing this. Are you hearing that?
Right.
Good. Then we're on this. It's just a little bit more reassurance. But also, again, I'm watching you work. With Daryl during that process, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to take a few of these little things that we're doing tracking wise and how you were building your comps. They're essentially the same, but they're different in some ways, and that goes back to what we talked about, taking those tools from the songwriter and learning, as a musician, but also working with other engineers and producers going, all right. And what was the little trick about popping it, that one little box, I had kept that update on and knew that just a simple little editing trick. Well, if I would close up under a rock and not want to work with other people, not be open-minded to see things something different. You're not going to grow. You're not going to grow as a musician or as an engineer. So,
And as engineer, producer, you guys had a really great way of kind of connecting and respecting one another and giving Alex what he needed and letting Alex get what you needed. Yeah. And so
this guy right here is an amazing producer. You've done excellent work with so many of the projects that I brought here. And I just had to give him a quick shout out on that because
appreciate it. Thank you.
You got to give credit when credit's due.
We actually now have a duo. We still formed a father and son duo now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we've been playing around town for about 6 months now.
Oh, he must be having a time.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, you have to. I'm in heaven too because you have to understand when you're on stage there and you're watching the crowd and you're looking over at your son and it's just a tremendous moment for me. That's for sure.
What makes you more proud, watching your son play or playing with your son?
Boy, I'd probably just say watching him play. I would say because on his own, it's just him, and he's having to wear all the hats on stage there, and be the front man and be the sound man and do it all, But equally as much though, no, to be able to play music with him in front of a crowd, that's equally just so gratifying.
I can't imagine how you feel after a gig with your son driving home afterwards. You're probably going through that and you're looking back and, I remember 10 years ago, 20 years ago. How old is he now?
25. Yeah.
So 25 years ago, holding him. And here I am on stage and I'm sharing music. Oh my God.
Well, what's scarier is that, I was just talking with a friend about this, is that where he's at technically at that age compared to where I was, he is light years ahead of me.
I was going to
When I was 25, I wasn't doing this intricate finger style stuff that he's doing. So I tell him, I say, son, if you stick with it, you're going to be a monster, man. I mean, he's just so far ahead.
But he grew up watching you do it.
Very rightly so. And people have asked, they go, how do you think he learned? I tell people, I think there was a little bit of osmosis with this, and the fact that he grew up seeing Dad play guitar in the house all the time, so that was normal. You know, I mean, you just pick it up and play it like Dad does. And I think he just did that, and it showed. I just hear it coming from his room one day, and of course I started him. I showed him some basic stuff, but he has the ear, and he has the drive, and he has the passion for it, which is great. That's the important part, is the passion to want to do it.
You either have it or not.
Yeah.
It's the it factor.
The it factor is right.
Yeah, man. But run us through the process of Sweet Soulmate, because it didn't take you that long to come up with the A and the B and the C section. For songwriters, you know what I'm talking about. This is verse, chorus, bridge, because it was quick for you.
It was. I mean, we started with a basic idea. You had the lyric sheet. And we started humming lines. You know, we started playing chord progressions. And we soon just kind of found that little kernel, that little nugget that you start to develop. But for me, I find the process as one of having to develop an idea and then kind of put it away and walk away from it for a while. Rarely can I sit down from the beginning and write one from beginning to end and it's finished. I've done that once with one of my songs. But I tend to be a guy that tends to write parts. I will tend to, for some reason, I tend to write choruses first. That's what comes out of me.
Wow.
Yeah, and then the verse, whereas, the process, a lot of it.
So it's the idea, the concept of the song.
Yes, and I think, we had a lyric sheet to work with. So from there, that process is different. So there we have a story. We have a story to start with. Mm-hmm. From there, that story dictates, is it happy or sad? Well, that's okay, then I'm going to go major or minor. I don't know. Mm-hmm. But when you're not starting with a lyric sheet, for me, when we're writing from scratch, that's tend to where a chorus comes out of me. That's just me and the way I work. And then I'll have to kind of put that down, come back to it and with a fresh mind, and I usually 9 times out of 10 find the verse. And then we start developing that idea, and then we find that refrain or that bridge. So it's a process for me of creating, walking away, coming back and embellishing, walking away and adding to it. That's what works best for my style.
On like a day-to-day basis, especially, I go through seasons, I'm sure you're the same way, where sometimes, you may be more drawn to the production and sitting in front of a DAW and putting down parts and coming up with grooves and then maybe writing to that. Lately, the past, I wouldn't even say lately, probably the last year, it's been more sitting down with my acoustic guitar and just picking away and seeing what happens. I've become a big morning person, so I usually start my day with kind of some exercises, 10 minutes of just free writing, 10 minutes of playing, and then if I have something that kind of coalesces and feels good, I'll just kind of run with it. If it doesn't, then I'll just kind of split from it, go about my day, and then, get back in the writing room and actually try and lay something down. But I try and make it as organic as possible with just stemming from the acoustic guitar and writing lyrics and melodies, and then see what goes from there.
Like that right there in itself is just very confusing, that I'm spending $10.99 on iCloud storage for things and we're spending $14.99 for people's artwork. There's something there that just doesn't really feel right. That being said, all of the streaming platforms have really forced artists, us, songwriters, everyone in the industry is really having to diversify what they do. Now more than ever, it's so important for musicians and artists to create content and market and brand, and you need to have a logo, you need to have updated photos, you need to be promoting every one of your gigs, and your website needs to look good, and there's so much more.
And you have to wear every one of those hats.
Right, yeah, that too. And you're not just playing marketing and social media, you're also your booking agent, and you are also your personal contract lawyer basically for venues, and you're negotiating, and all of that is putting so much stress on artists that it's just becoming to be like, it is an issue. It's not becoming, it is an issue in the industry, and it's something that I think that needs to be talked about and something that needs to be put forward, and there needs to be solutions.
I've got 76, I think it is, pieces of music now, about 4 hours worth. Solo instrumental, nylon string guitar, and about 80% original. So for 4 or 5 years, well, actually still, but not, there was about a 4 or 5 year period of intense, just deep in it. I didn't do much else.
Sat on the couch.
Pretty much, yeah. Yeah.
Now, COVID was a silver lining for a lot of us. I know it was for me. I never would have come to Arizona and met all you guys, and the Big Yard Nation would never have gotten resurrected. My last record was in 2005, but COVID was a silver lining for you too, because you really did a reinvention.
Well, yeah, 2 things happened. Number one, I didn't have to hold myself in a certain spot like I've been doing every night for 40-something years.
Right.
You know, because performance time, right? You gotta be ready. You gotta be there. So all of a sudden, I'm on the couch going, I'm on vacation. Now, I got too deep into that, but I also came up with, I don't know how many tunes and wrote a whole electric instrumental album in that period. Yeah, partly boredom. You know, that's when your brain starts to open up and things happen.
Get
for
creative.
me anyway. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, I know that that Billy's aware of you and your playing,
Yeah.
and you of course are an admirer of Billy Gibbons,
Oh, yeah.
ZZ Top, and you played a slide solo on this that's unbelievable. And you know, we cut that as almost a scratch when we were doing scratch tracks.
Yeah, yeah.
And it was really before Alex Chacon was brought on to produce the sessions for us. And you had cut that, and I hooked you up. You went in direct line to it. I think you even picked up one of my guitars in the studio.
did, yeah.
And played a slide, and it was like, whoa. And then when we went to do the basic tracks, after Alex came in and put the drum tracks together for us and whatnot, we said, let's bring you back in. And let's do that slide part. So you brought your amp in, and you sat down, and we mic'd it up, and you played it, and it was good. And we listened back at the scratch, and you said, you know something, Matt?
Yeah.
There was some magic there.
There was. And it was all right there in the moment, and that's so hard to recapture sometimes.
It is.
Yeah. That's probably the hardest part about playing music is you have those moments where stuff just, you don't know where it comes from, you can't explain it. And you'd actually have to sit down and relearn it, how to do what you do, me, and then rehearse it a while and get it back to where it sounds like it just happened.
Around, no worries, no cares today. Everything gonna be okay. Giving my love away. Yeah, I'm giving it all away.
One of the guys in the group, his mom was connected to Ken Duncan, to Kendon in Burbank. And they said, hey, you guys want to come in and record for a week? And we went, oh my God. It was like God just came down and handed us, you know, a gold Rolls Royce, you know, because who could afford that? It's Ken Duncan. So we got in the studio and we started working, and we had 24 hours a day for 1 week. And every 20 minutes, somebody with a guy with a pipe would come in and look at the board and say, excuse me, and pull out one of the strips from the board and put a new one in and go, okay, go back. So what happened was that we were the test band for Ken's room to set it up, because a week later the Rolling Stones were coming in. And so we got all the interruptions you could possibly have before the Stones came in and totally took over the room. So so I got to be in front of the mic and behind the mic and at the board and all that. And I just realized at that point that, you know, I can be in front of the camera and the microphone and do all that, but I really liked being behind the board and I kind of took over the band's production and situation, and I really liked that. So I started pushing more towards that. And at one point, I got the ability to take over a studio and run it. And so at that point, I was assisting every big engineer it turns out that Motown had rented the room for a year. So I got to work with McLeod and Sawyer and Diana Ross and all kinds of heavy people as with the most famous engineers on the planet. And I was a pain in the ass. I would ask the engineer, hey, how do you use that piece of gear? How's that work? And he'd go, oh, come over here, son, and I'll show you. And he did it. So they taught me a lot of stuff. And after a while, they just got that I wanted to know, and I had the balls to ask. So
curiosity is the mother of invention.
So so my schooling was being there and in the middle of it.
I started playing guitar when I was probably 7th grade, when you start realizing there are girls.
Yeah.
And played all through high school and early on in college, and then I quit for a long time. I didn't play for a long time. Raised a family and became a single dad and worked, and so I played very, very part-time. And about 10 years ago, my wife said, you're having some local success here. Why don't you quit your job and see where this can go? So
great support, huh?
Wonderful support. And so once I started performing full time, it's funny. We're talking about songwriting. I'd always kind of written a little bit here and there, and I'd write songs for my kids' birthdays and stuff like that. And once I quit being an electrician, I was inundated with these songs falling out of the ethers or wherever they come from.
Floodgate open.
Yeah. And the only thing I can think of is that I finally gave myself the time and I let myself be open to these things happening. But it was amazing. It was like, oh my God, there's another one. Oh God, there's another one.
It's kind of like Bernie Taupin and Elton John all of a sudden back in the 70s. They're like, boom.
I attribute that just to having given the opportunity to have the time.
So what drives that now as a songwriter?
Well, I hate to say it, but I think a fear of writing a shitty song probably drives it more than anything else.
Great answer.
And you write 35 awful things, and maybe you get one. Maybe one is okay, or maybe one gives you a nugget you can work with.
They say you have to write at least 100 songs before, whatever that means.
I try to put what I see and what I feel into a form that I can share with people, rather than telling them stuff. Rather than being dogmatic, saying, well, this is what I think about this. Well, you put that in a song, and you couch it in a melody, and you make the lyrics maybe less dogmatic, and you can get a point across that maybe you couldn't get across otherwise.
Wow. So you just kind of let it flow and just kind of be a conduit for this creative process.
It was one of the best moments of my career. Gibson Guitars. I did world tours for them for a few years, and I was in a big festival, Luzern, Switzerland, and the whole PA system went out.
Oh my God!
And they were like, "Well, what are you going to?" The place was full, and the auditorium was full, and they were like, "Oh, we're going to." People are going to leave. What are we going to do? And I just said, don't worry, I got this. And there was a guitar amp that I was plugged into, so it worked, but there was no sound system. So I just pulled the guitar amp. I went to the very front of the stage, and I had a set of a lot of my own stuff and some tracks I was using, a bunch of instrumental stuff to try to impress all because it was a festival thing. At any rate, I just went to the edge of the stage, and I started playing Message in a Bottle and singing it without a PA system, but I have a powerful voice. And there was like 1,000 people in the audience, and I played that just like that, just my guitar, and sang. They gave me a standing ovation. It was one of the best moments of my career, oddly enough, because of a system failure and totally off script. I wasn't going to play that song. It was the first thing that came to my head that I could, So you just always got to be.
When I was a kid, I was at the Grandy Ballroom in Cleveland with Jeff Beck, and his band Faces. Rod Stewart was with him. PA went out. Rod came up to the front of the stage, sang it out. It was one of those moments. But so you're in Europe and this happens to you. You come to the front of the stage. How do you prepare for different cities on different tours, especially internationally?
Yeah, I have found that the old adage, music is the universal language, holds true.
I think navigating this whole new social media, there's a lot of just new ways that people are receiving music, finding your music, and trying to learn all that. There's a learning curve to a lot of that. We've been learning video aspects of things, having to figure out how to make our own videos and make content and things like that. So that's been a challenge. Yeah, you used to just get to be a musician and then somebody else did their other jobs. And now you kind of have to do it all. You're like, well, we're producing our own music. We're recording our own music. We're marketing our music. Yeah, you're doing all the jobs yourself and going, okay, multiple I'm learning hats. All these things, right?
Which I think is a good thing. Alex and I have talked a lot about challenges and opportunities, So there's challenges, but look what it does in terms of broadening the scope of what people can get their heads wrapped around, and how they can expertise. And then, some of the things like Alex is an incredible musician from a musician's family. When I met him, I had no idea he had other skills and interests and whatnot, and to see what he's, gone on in terms of building his career. If it were a perfect world, and you either had people at a team, and which I'm sure you have some people. If it were a perfect world, what would you love to spend all of your time with creatively? Mm-hmm. What would you love to just, Crystal Baker to be all about?
I would love to work on writing music and making more content. I would write and film and do more video work and put out more content and have somebody to help me promote it and market it, and because I enjoy somebody who has a little more expertise in some of those fields. I don't wear all of those hats well. I don't have the knowledge that a lot of other people have in some of those ways.
Yeah.
So but I do have a team of people around me and a lot of friends who are super talented who can help me do a lot of those things, which is amazing.
1975 comes around, you're signed, you release a record, it's got two big hits, Love Will Find a Way, What You Gonna Do?
Actually, it was two albums. The first album was called Place in the Sun. That was actually our third album.
Which is a great...
Which had What You Gonna Do on it. And then Place in the Sun became a hit, and there were a couple other hits in there, but not top 5, which What You Gonna Do was. And then we came out with, that story's crazy because we had 3 years with A&M, made 3 albums. A&M spent a ton of money to develop the band, and then What You Gonna Do comes out, and Dave's singing half of it, and Bud's singing the other half, and literally, I was with our manager, Bob Brown, in his living room listening to the countdown on KFRC in San Francisco, and What You Gonna Do went into the top 10. And it was amazing because Bud called me right then in that countdown and said, I'm quitting. And he quit the band because A&M gave him his own deal, which made no sense at all. But his wife, Patti Santos, who sang Whitebird for It's a Beautiful Day, which was a big hit, and they got behind him, and made no sense. They spent all this money getting Pablo Cruz in the charts, and then they take away, a major player. Bud was like Joe Cocker in our band. He's an incredible singer, an incredible performer.
And a unique voice.
Yeah, and so then all of a sudden he's gone, and so then it just leaned on Dave and I to figure it out. And we auditioned all these bass players, singers. It was really tough, and we, making a record. We had to follow up. And so he and I, we wrote Love Will Find a Way, and we were in the studio. That record was really came together magically, but we didn't really, we found a guy, Bruce Day, to play bass in the band and sing, and he represented us well, but he did not play in the studio. We used Mike Porcaro, Jeff Porcaro's brother, and Steve Porcaro's brother, and he was great, and Larry Antonino, who's with us now, we always say if we'd found him back then, we would have been in much better shape, because it was a tough deal not having a real, solid guy playing bass.
Yeah, you got to have a rhythm section.
Bud was really solid, and so when he left, it was like everybody was like, well, what are you guys going to do now? And then all of a sudden, Love Will Find a Way goes in the top 5, and that album was sold like crazy.
What an appropriate name, especially in this story, and thank you for that, is Love Will Find a Way, and it did,
Tell if the story ends, will we come together, or is this just pretend? Long there, can I face the truth? Will I be gone forever, or am I coming home to you?
And it sets up a beautiful, beautiful bridge that Larry just nailed.
Yeah, Larry took and he just ran with that.
Oh man, and his vocal part is so great.
Yeah.
And the licks that you played in terms of your guitar, it makes that song, that vibe of that song, just so chill and Americana, but at the same time contemporary. It's just a cool track, man.
It's got like the upbeat. Gives a little bit of funk to it too, like it just gives that extra bounce.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's like basically the verse melody, right? Where is the sun? Where is the moon? Rhythmically, at least,
that slip from you. Just tell me where we stand.
Yeah, and that's that nice little waterfall you gave it there. Yeah. Should we hit the bridge?
Hit the bridge, man.
Cool. Let's take him to the bridge.
Coming home, I wonder where you are. How near or how far? Coming home, like a wayward shooting star, will fall into your arms again.
Beautiful job. It's a collaboration with Joey Goutos and Larry Antonino. You can see the track on any of our Spotify profiles. So Daryl Scotty and Big Yard, Joey Goutos, Larry Antonino. It's a proud collaboration. We hope you love it. The video is done very well, and we're so appreciative of that. So Joey, thanks for joining us on another segment of Deep Inside the Song.
Thanks for having me, man, and thanks for bringing me in on such a beautiful writing session that we turned into an amazing song. It's one of my favorites I've been a part of. So.
Legends through time.
How do you bring that vision into a collaboration with somebody that you've just met or just come into the studio? Do you stand back a little bit and just kind of let it percolate, or do you step in? Or
I believe that often the best ideas are going to come from the songwriter, and if I do offer, there's times where I'll offer an idea just so that they'll say, what about this, and just to change their perspective a little bit. And, it may be a very legitimate idea, but I'm more looking to get them involved. It really depends so much on the personality who I'm working with.
Sure.
But I want every song, when I hear a song, I want it to leave my room better than it was when it came in. That's kind of the thing. Whatever it takes to accomplish that, it doesn't matter if it came from me or 10-year-old kid, I don't care, as long as that purpose is served. And so as a producer, I always say you're not recording music, you're recording people playing music. And so it's more working with the people that you have sit in front of you, and it differs every day wildly.
Amen.
So it's a different kind of just go with whatever happens, and that's my goal, is for the product to leave here better than when it came in.
With the introduction of AI, we're particularly interested in, will that or could that ever render a space like this or a creative process or songwriting archaic?
It depends on who you ask. I don't think so. I think that technology is really cool. Guys bring in like modeling amps, and they say, wow, it sounds just like a Marshall with the SM57 in front of it. And I'll say, well, let's fire up a Marshall, and I guarantee you,
let's see it.
If you want to put something convincing out, you're not going to do it any better than with a real amp and a real microphone in front of it. I do think it's going to change the industry a little, and for my purposes, there drums. You can sample drums till you're blue in the face. Mm-hmm. There's nothing like a really good drum kit, and a really good drummer. Nothing like it. Yeah, and there's no robot's ever going to replace, Steve Gadd, ever. And that's the end of that story.
I think that's the thing, though. All of these gizmos and gadgets and all these things are supposed to embellish the writing process.
Yeah.
Nothing is ever going to be able to take the place of a creative space like this, like a recording studio, where there's something about that energy and the link of being in the same room, recording at the same time, and there's just kind of magic there. And maybe you can call me old school, but I just feel that the studio is a place to come and collaborate and work.
It's not zero sum. It's not either or. They can exist together. In fact, they do here in any studio.
Level and the songwriting level and all those things, it takes a team of people to create good product. I mean, there's so many instances in music where it just wasn't one person. Whether they're writing a very tiny melody or putting a little percussion or whatever, they're like, hey, put that cowbell right there, or whatever it is. It could be one tiny little thing, and that additive made that song. Whether people are really paying attention to the additive or not, it's part of that collaboration process.
Because part of the personality of the song.
Yeah.
I firmly believe in collaboration, and I think one of the reasons that I believe in it is because we all, as artists or songwriters or performers or producers, all wear it on our sleeves. We are a product of everything that we've been experiencing or grew up with or listened to or were a fan of. You mentioned Jeff Lynne, which was amazing. When you and I first met, you talked about Jeff Lynne, a huge fan of his and respect him. But I agree with you, Alex, that collaboration is just such a huge part of it. And I think for artists and musicians and producers not to open themselves up to collaboration really just holds them back.
The first time I made a record where I really collaborated, I paid a bunch of different people thousands of dollars, and it's the best record I ever made. For sure. And so I think it's absolutely true. And the only record that I feel that I've ever done personally that's viable as a genuinely good commercial product, I think there were a lot of people involved, and everyone's contributions made this magical potion that became the album. And I never would have made that record. Probably the same for you here. You never would have necessarily made this exact record without exactly who was involved. Yes. Especially since you have co-writers on several of the songs.
Certainly not with the eclectic blend of songs that we got, like Carefree State of Mind. Like Melody, which is a complete departure from that. Or Give It Away. Or even Happy Day, where we took and we brought in horn sections and whatnot. You were the guy that when you first heard the basic tracks that Alex and I did, you were the guy that came, after Alex and I programmed the drums, you were the guy that came in and said, live drums, and that's how we ended up.
The first thing I said. Yeah. That's right. I was like, these tracks sound great.
And
man.
Alex and I were debating it.
Hiring a drummer.
We were debating it, and I was hot on it. But that's how we ended up in Pyramid Studios here in the dungeon of or the bunkers of Pyramid Studios with doing the live drum track.
So you have to understand, I had an incredible encounter with God, and all I wanted to do, I left everything else behind. All I wanted to do was to write songs and sing them about Jesus, right? And so I didn't consider myself in the music business. I was in the music ministry. And so I knew nothing about publishing. I knew nothing about recording. A friend of mine had recorded one of my songs in Southern Cal and wanted us to do background vocals on it, Cindy and I. So we flew on his plane down here, and that was my first time to go into a real recording studio. It was Buddy King Studios, which became Soundcastle. And Buddy was engineering on it and floating in and out, you know. And I was just like, this is so cool, you know. It had a Harrison console. It looked like Star Trek, you know. It had a 3M machine, 2-inch tape. And I just wanted to do this. I thought, this is where I'd like to live, you know, in a studio. But I knew nothing. And then, you know, I wrote this song that In My Life, Lord Be Glorified, that took off around the world, and I had nothing to do with it. I wasn't in the music business. I didn't know about publishing again. I didn't know about promoting anything. I was just traveling around in Northern California to all these little towns, you know, Bieber and New Bieber and Willow Creek and Burt Ranch and Fall River Mills. It's all these little places, all these little towns, just playing my guitar and singing.
At churches or coffee shops?
Yeah, churches, and then sometimes they'd put on a concert for the whole town. You know, people would come out. But it was all church-based. And I wasn't in the music business, so I had nothing to do. In fact, I was telling some folks earlier, when I wrote that song, I actually wrote it as a prayer for Cindy and me, my wife and I, to sing before we would go out and do a concert. And I told my wife, this is a private song. This is just for you and me, and I'm not sharing this one. We're not going to sing it publicly. And
God has something else in mind.
Cindy goes, oh, no. You need to share that song. That song is a gift from God to his people. And she was right. She got it. But again, I did sing it. And then it's like putting a match to a trail of gasoline. You know, I didn't even do the match. Somebody else did that. And the thing just raced away from us all over the world. Everywhere I go, I've been on every continent. You know, I've been in a bunch of nations. And everywhere I go, people have been singing that song, and it has provided the most wonderful introduction to people.
Well, it's in our hymnals.
Yeah.
The song's in our hymnals.
God is good. He always is good. We can trust His love for us. For God is good.
And I like that too. It was written actually in a very dark time. My nephew was dying of leukemia. And 17 months after he died, his father, who was my best friend and my brother-in-law, also died.
I remember you telling me that story.
Yeah, it was so hard. And I wrote this actually as like a private song, like Lord Be Glorified. I wrote it for myself I'd sing myself to sleep in hotel rooms, wherever I was, every night, even at home, just reminding myself that God is good, He's not bad. And He's for me. He's not against me, even when it hurts.
And the song, and I think I've said this to you before. We've done this song together on stage, and this song almost plays itself. That's how well written it is. It's just how natural it is.
Thank you so much. Wow. I'm always on a quest to write the next Amazing Grace, and what I mean by that is Amazing Grace is just across the line from trite. Do you know what I mean?
It is.
It's like it moved from trite to timeless. So Amazing Grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I would love to have a lens on John Newton writing that song.
And what a period of time that song was written in.
How many, I would love to see how many co-writes, I mean, how many edits there were on his,
Yeah.
you know, it's a wonderful
So many
song.
things were changing in the church when that was written.
Yeah. Well, it's just a timeless, wonderful lyric. It's wonderful and it's so simple. Complicated songs, people think I got to make it complicated or otherwise it's not really a good song. And I go, simple is harder. In furniture design, in architecture, in music, in writing, simplicity is much more difficult than complexity.
And it's often what's between the notes. It's often what's not sung, what's not played.
Mozart said, the notes are silver, the rests are gold.
Yeah.
I love it.
This is what blows my mind about you. So you grew up, your heroes were like the Crusaders, right?
Yeah.
And you go to LA, and then all of a sudden you're on 2 tours with the Crusaders in their bus in Europe.
Yes.
Okay, and then you get on their way to the first city, you get into a theological argument with them, and you hold your ground, and they come to you with the loving endearment and say, let's just agree to disagree.
Yeah, exactly. Who knew?
And so here you are now touring with heroes of yours, man.
Yeah, it was amazing.
And at a young age.
Yeah, it was incredible. The first gig in LA I got was with a saxophonist named Ronnie Laws. And a lot of people don't know, he was actually one of the first guys in Earth, Wind & Fire, but then his solo career took off. And he's from Houston, Texas, and the Crusaders are from there. So after working with Ronnie, touring with Ronnie, an incredible dream. That's the other guy we were listening to back in the day. And dream right away came true. And so when the Crusaders were looking for a bassist, Ronnie recommended me, and Wayne Henderson, the trombone player, was producing Ronnie. So it's a lot of synergy going on in this business. You got to realize you're working with this guy, but he knows all those guys. And if you do a good job and you show up on time and you're always professional,
and prepared,
always, then they say, oh, I got the guy. And he's in your mind to recommend you. So it's who you know to a point, but you have to do your due diligence.
You know, Aaron, I so love the fact that you're here and you hear this, because I watch your career and the people that you're working with and the work that you're putting into it and their dedication on that. And I know in every fiber of me that the level by which you're going to rise. And now you're working together and you guys are producing, some new songs for us, and we co-written some stuff together. This is very cool for me, man.
Yep. Yeah. I'm so glad to know Aaron, man. We immediately clicked, and we had some great conversations right off the bat about a lot of things. And then just getting in the studio, having a song that Daryl wrote, and we came in and kind of co-wrote, and we were producing it, we were moving it along. And just the conversation, the etiquette of the studio is like, when someone has an idea, the original guy, oh, I don't know, you were open to say, well, let's try that. And we took in a couple of directions, ended up being a beautiful kind of way to launch into a chorus or, other parts. And his vocal.
You're talking about Poets and
Heroes. Mm-hmm. That's right. And his beautiful vocal arrangement that he came up with, just great. Our voices sound really well blended together too. It's a crazy thing. But
what are some of the notable challenges that you've seen that important to talk about?
Everything's a challenge because you're on your own. What I found is you just have to get yourself out there. I went to clubs, I went to different places, and you meet this guy, you meet that guy, because you're tired sometimes. They're playing at 9 at night. You're sitting there going, okay, I had a long day, but you still dress it up and go out to that place and that place just so you're there. And if you can meet someone and give them your number, that's fine. It's called networking, as we know. Power through the tired part and go out as much as you can, and during the day too. A lot of people go to NAMM show and stuff, but mainly it's day in and day out kind of stuff. And don't get discouraged, because it takes a second, especially if you're new in town. People don't know who you are yet, but you know that guy and that guy and that guy are the first 3 calls. But then there's more than 3 calls a day for something going on in that town. You just make sure you're the guy that's next, and then you can flop it and be in the higher positions as you get a name for yourself. You're capable, and the person that has the account knows you, and then he trusts you to deliver. Mm-hmm. And you do. And then that leads to the next one, because look what he did. And then you just do good work all the time, no matter what.
Wow.
And it starts breaking down these barriers that feel like they're impossible for the first couple, 3 years, even when you first get somewhere. It's like, you can't buy your way in. You can't, it doesn't matter how much money you have to try to get this guy and that manager, that lawyer, that attorney. It's you got to just do the legwork. You got to hit the streets.
So for Aaron, you're like half our age, maybe a little bit more, and have accomplished a lot. Does this resonate with you? Do you have the same kind of?
100%. And I think it's funny because I see this, I don't know if I'd call it a blind spot, but I hear it overlooked a lot in terms of challenges. Is Larry's telling you about his challenges, but you have to remember that Larry's already incredibly competent. So when he's in the right room, and he meets somebody and they say, show me what you got. He goes, here you go. And they go, oh, hell yeah. And I think that so often the challenge, honestly, is first, a lot of people are trying to jump into this pool without the skill sets. And I think that's really, really, it's fine, but it's like you have to know what your lane is.
I've been blessed with an amazing ride over the last 5 decades of running a business. So when you're out there getting to wherever it is you're getting to, love your fate. Follow us on our socials, subscribe to Big Yard Nation on our YouTube channel, and remember, never, ever give up on your dream, friends. See you in the yard.